He's great. 18 months old now.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Shirley Fenton. I manage the Internet project, and this is the first of our distinguished seminar series for the first months of 1999, so I welcome you all here. We have a very good topic today given by the LivePage Corporation. The speaker to my left, as you can see, is not Dave Boswell. Dave, unfortunately, came down with pneumonia. So his colleague in hand, Deanne Farrar, is going to give the seminar today. She is Vice President of Marketing at LivePage, so I'm sure she will fill in very well for Dave. Deanne was a student at the University of Waterloo, a co-op student, joined the ranks of Whatcom, did many things at Whatcom, which later became Sybase. And last year she joined LivePage. So today she's going to talk to us about practical solutions to website content management and personalization. And so I don't take any more of her time. I'll switch it over to Dan.
Thanks, Shirley.
Thanks, Dan.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out in this not such great weather, and I'd also like to apologize on behalf of Dave. If there's one thing I can say for sure is I know Dave would prefer to be here than in a hotel room with pneumonia, and I'm not usually his spokesperson on such matters, but I just know he's probably wishing he was here at this very moment. In terms of LivePage, who we are in our history, the product LivePage Enterprise has its first seeds here at the University of Waterloo. It was actually a research project started here at the university to find ways to intelligently store tagged text content in a relational database. And that research started in the late 80s and early 90s, and that's very fortuitous today, because if you look at what the web has done, really what people want to do is deliver tagged content to websites, and a relational database makes a great foundation for it. Additionally, this year, and especially in the past about 12 months, tagged XML text has been recognized and has been developing as a fabulous format for storing content. And you know, to a certain degree, you can almost look at 2 years ago the wave of Java and how much interest and practical solutions have been developed with Java. Now people are looking at XML content that same way to further enhance HTML. So today we're going to talk about practical solutions to website content management and personalization. To present some solutions, perhaps it's best to look at where the market is, because to come up with a practical solution, you've got to have business drivers in the market. What we see is that websites are growing relentlessly in terms of both size and complexity. Examples of that are websites today are becoming a primary vehicle for customer service and support. So for example, a lot of software companies in town are using their websites as their first vehicle. You got a problem? Get up to our website and see if we've had previously bug reports. Get up and check our online documentation. And any changes that they make to that documentation can be immediately deployed. So with websites, you know, the demands for growth in terms of performing better service for your customers by providing more online documentation. That's one internet example. On the internet, we see other examples. Many corporations are moving to the internet as their primary vehicle for communication from the corporation to employees. Examples of that are HR manuals going online. The region of Waterloo has in fact replaced the printed HR manual with simply an intranet version. Providing policies and procedures and corporate guidelines online, as well as phone lists and email lists and dynamic data, as well as all going online. So websites are growing relentlessly in size and complexity. One example of that is we're working with Bell. And 2 years ago, their website had about 400 pages, and today it's up to 23,000. And that's an intranet site to support their sales force. Websites are becoming business critical. The Eddie Bauer store online is the single largest store Eddie Bauer has in its chain. So when that website goes down, it is equivalent to shutting down the largest Eddie Bauer website, or the largest Eddie Bauer store. That kind of business going on, it isn't only, Yahoo and the internet sites, the internet companies that are seeing this kind of business critical. It's companies that we see, FedEx and Eddie Bauer. And so these corporations want to ensure that their website is as reliable as the other parts of their business. Other parts of their business, such as their financial systems, are run using relational databases. And so we want to exploit the capabilities of relational databases to ensure that same scalability, that same data integrity, that same availability on the web. And diverse end user needs. One thing about the web, it is a global environment where anybody in the world can get up to your site. And what you want to do is customize the end user experience for them. And that way you're maximizing the communication bandwidth with that customer. So for example, if you know the person is running IE3, you want to display the content in the format that is best for that browser. Or we're working with a hotel chain at the moment that says, listen, I have a site in Hawaii, and when a 60-year-old retired gentleman gets up on this site, I want to rent him a room. And what would appeal to him most is me showing him pictures of golf courses, of him on the golf course, of him on the beach. But yet if I know it's a 20-year-old, just graduated athletic person, I would like to show the environment of surfing and mountain biking. And so end users have diverse needs, and by being able to personalize content, you can further exploit the internet. So these business drivers of the size and complexity, the business criticalness, as well as the diverse needs of end users, lead us to a series of requirements. First, one of the things in terms of requirements is being able to address the size and more easily and quickly get the information online. For example, if you've just produced, for our customer care site, if you've just produced a tech note, you don't want to have a delay in that going online. You want to be able to quickly publish that immediately without having it to be transformed from your native Word document, if that's how you created it, to go online. You want to be able to produce that immediately. Second one, websites becoming business critical. As I've mentioned, websites are available across the world. As they grow, you need to be able to scale them with multiple servers, perhaps mirrored around the world, not only here in North America. For bandwidth, you might want to produce mirror sites in Asia as well as Europe. By powering your website through a relational database, you can use the same skills and techniques that you've already developed for your operational data to provide that scalability, the replication, and the data integrity. And finally, the personalization to improve the experience on the website. So these drivers and requirements lead to what we're calling the next generation, and it's an integrated content-based management system. And the content-based management system, it isn't by accident. It sounds like database management system. As I said, the seeds of this project have to do with intelligently storing data in a relational database. So what LivePage has done is we feel is make it smart, how to smartly store content in a relational database. We exploit tagged content, both XML, SGML, as well as HTML tagged text. Some of the features of an integrated XML content-based management system include multi-user content management. One of the things you want to be able to ensure is that it's a team environment, that check-in, check-out works, that you can have multiple authors providing content to your site simultaneously, using their existing skills. Secondly, you want to exploit the advanced DBMS content storage. That's not only the software that your organizations have purchased today, but also the investments you've made in terms of education. Corporations not only make millions of dollars, they define themselves by being an Oracle shop, and not only do they make $1 million investment in software, but the investment they make in people skills is exponential on that. And by taking advantage of that, you can further the integrity of your website. Finally, Finally, simple direct publishing with personalization. One of the things, the title of this talk is practical. One way you could implement a personalized website is to create like a dozen of them for each individual segment you're trying to reach. That would not be a practical solution. It would not only be intensive in terms of storage requirements, but also it wouldn't be most efficient for your customers. An example of that, if our large hotel chain had to create a site, for the over 60 crowd, I don't know how many people would want to visit it. Some of the cost factors that you need to address in a practical solution are the content management. One of the things that because the web has come on so quickly, we've found organizations have taken a tactical approach to developing their websites. And perhaps one of the most obvious problems that have developed is what's called the Webmaster Bottleneck. And there, what corporations have started to do is they develop a document. Let's say it's their HR policy manual in Word. So their HR administrator has finished typing up this document, and they say, okay, we want to publish it to the web. They pass it on to a team of webmasters who then convert that document to HTML so that it's in a language that can be represented in a web browser. Furthermore, they have to add navigation to it. They have to add links to it. They have to add searching to it. They have to make that document. They have to take what was traditionally a paper document and webify it. And this has not only added a great cost in terms of the number of people you need on your web team to convert these documents, but it also delays the accessibility to these documents. As well, content becomes unmanageable. Don De Palma at Forrester Research describes where we're headed with the web as a nest of problems that's prepared to explode. And that's because of all the unmanaged links that are out there, because people will put in a hard-coded link and then remove the page. And we've all run into that on the web and on just about every site. Furthermore, it's the escalation of storage requirements. Websites are growing at a tremendous rate. Intranets, that example I gave you at Bell Canada, they've actually grown. Their intranet, which supports their sales force in the past 2 years, has gone from 200 users to 4,000 users. We've seen the same things in terms of website hits at other sites. I noticed Yahoo yesterday announced Amazon.com announced their earnings, and their revenue has quadrupled in the past year. Well, I'd assume that means they've got 4 times the hits in the past year. And if you're going to build a website to support that type of capacity, you want to ensure you've got the right infrastructure in place. By exploiting a relational database, you can use proven and reliable techniques. Relational databases are used to power the financial systems of the world, the banks, Visa, as well as the finances of organizations. Not only does it provide a scalable environment, but it's also a secure environment. Intranets are increasingly carrying secure information, both intranets and internets, and you're exploiting the proven security of the database as well. And finally, there's content publishing. The adding personalization to a site can be defined in 3 ways. One is through the hardware that's available, meaning identifying if someone's using the software that's available on the hardware platform, identifying IE3, IE4, even IE5. Netscape versus Microsoft is another one. The second one in terms of content publishing and personalization is, as I'd mentioned, the end user experience with the pictures up on the site. And the third one, perhaps the most interesting, is actually modifying the content depending on the user. What folks want to do is, if you know what type of user you have up on the site, whether it be an advanced user or perhaps a novice user, you might want to tailor the information accordingly. We're working on a pilot project right now with IBM to develop online documentation that is delivered both on CD as well as the web, and depending on the type of user that is looking at the documentation, they'd like to have it appear with tutorials for the novices or perhaps with more in-depth information for the advanced user. And of course there's a great overlap as well. Not only is they're not 2 distinct audiences, there's also a great overlap between those 2 audiences. So you want to be able to personalize the content appropriately as well. So how to lower the costs using a content-based management system? First of all, A content-based management system is a multi-user collaborative online system. And the key of it is that the management medium is also the publishing medium. So unlike in the tactical workflow that is developed from authoring to webmaster publishing, by using the database as the source for both the management as well as the publishing, you've got a direct medium. Secondly, the database storage, and we've talked about that. LivePage has developed what we call the content relational storage model. What the content relational model does, and we'll discuss it in detail in further slides, but as you store information in a database, it looks at the tags, it breaks down the data, or chunks it, is a word commonly used in the XML and HTML worlds. It breaks it into chunks, it stores the full text in a relational database. At that same time, it develops the indexes that are used for searching automatically. None of this needs to be done by the end user. As well, we store the hierarchy of the document within the relational database as well. Finally, content publishing. LivePage, in addition to the content server, which uses the content relational model for storing the data, the content server is also used for publishing the data back out to the end user. And it's at that stage where we apply the presentation style. And so it's the content server that adds that transforms the data. If it's stored in XML or HTML, it transforms the data out to HTML so it's accessible via any browser. It applies the style with the navigation links, as well as such functionalities as searching and home. And as well, personalization is at that stage. So in summary, a content-based management system provides a simple integrated approach to content management and publishing. It is a fast, easy web publishing tool, and you can use your existing skills. I'm about to show you a demo that's going to show you Office 2000 users, specifically Word 2000 users, publishing directly to the web. And that way you don't have to retrain people in your organization to become content managers. Content-based managers, as I said, they exist within existing authoring tools, as well as LivePage exploits the underlying infrastructure, IT infrastructure you have today. Not only do we integrate with your relational database, and we natively support Sybase, IBM, Informix, and Oracle, as well as we support the web servers, namely Microsoft and Netscape as well. And finally, the database gives us the security. This is one of the architectural diagrams for LivePage. It consists of three core components. One is the LivePage Manager, which talks directly to the content base. So here, an end user sits here, and an end user can continue to use their existing tools, front page, Word, if they want to incorporate Java components or content that's been tagged with XML or HTML using a XML or HTML editor. So your content editors work here, and they use the LivePage Manager to submit information into the content into the database. We integrate seamlessly with the major authoring tools. So for instance, when you're working within your Word environment, you simply press Update, and the information will be directly stored into the database. As the information is stored, as I'd mentioned, we break it down into chunks. We create the indices that are later used for searching. So it provides seamless integration with the manager. So that's the manager's point of view, or the authoring point of view. Authors no longer have to worry about learning how to create links within the site. They no longer have to concern themselves with learning web programming in terms of adding navigation to the site. That is done through the GUI interface of the LivePage Manager. From the end user point of view, we've got a series of browsers that your users might want to use. And what happens is when you request a page, when you request a page from a web server, it is recognized as a LivePage page. So it goes out, and the LivePage server requests the content from the database, and it adds the navigation style. And the navigation styles are a series of it's an HTML template that gets added to add the searching, to add the buttons for navigation, as well as the searching capabilities and the home button capabilities. And so your by separating the content from the presentation style, end users end up with a richly functional website. Let me just switch into the demonstration here, and I'll actually show you this in action, and then we can finish up with the slides. I'm going to start up the LivePage Manager, and here's the manager. So what we're looking at here is the user's point of view of a website. Just so you know, the environment I'm running on here, I'm actually running a real web application, or a real a model, you could say, website. The database I'm running is SQL Server 7, Microsoft SQL Server 7. We actually ship with Sybase SQL Server Anywhere in the box. However, just to show our database support, I'm today running with Microsoft SQL Server 7. I happen to be running on Windows 98. And the other piece that I have running here is a personal web server. So I am running a real web environment. I have started up the LivePage Manager, and this is the view that authors use to create and manage the website. On the left-hand side, you'll see a tree view of the website. This is a logical representation of the website. Let's just browse it and see what we're starting with. This happens to be the demo I'm showing is an intranet site for a company called the Bright Idea Company. And you'll notice here that the Bright Idea Company's website, along the top, this happens to be their homepage, and along the top there's a style with home, and so we can go to the home and we can go search, as well as there's content. And you'll notice that down the side is the navigation. And if I just minimize my browser here, whoops, maximize, let's just shrink that down a little. You can see that navigation bar there, what's changed, corporate information, job opportunities, matches exactly what we see in the LivePage Manager. Now, to show you how dynamically pages are generated, let's just change the structure of this website. Under corporate information here, I have a message from the president. I can drag and drop that right up to the top level within human resources. And if I just refresh this page, there we go. We see that without doing any web programming, I have changed the structure of the site. And so without being a web developer, I can immediately change the hierarchy and the links within the site. Now, putting authors online is one of the big problems. As you know, websites are growing relentlessly, and we've got to enable more content authors to directly publish information. So let me just double click on the president's message here and open up Word. And hopefully, because I'm running PowerPoint here, it won't take up too many resources. So here's the message from the president. And I'm going to replace this with a new message. Okay. One sec. Just select that again. One moment. Let me double click on that one again. Okay, so I have a annual report here that I'm going to use. There we go. And the annual report actually has a letter from the president with photos and everything in it. So I'm just going to steal this text here from the annual report, and just like I'm an average content user or a content provider. And there we go. There's the letter from the president. Now you'll notice here on the toolbar up in the top left-hand corner there's an update button. By clicking on the update button, I will immediately insert into the LivePage content base. It prompts me if I'd like to add a comment, and so I'll just add 1999 president message and say OK. What's happening here under the covers is Word has now storing right into the content base. We are taking the data and, based on its tag structure, chunking it or breaking it down and storing it with full text in the database. Additionally, we're creating the Word index to allow for not only complete full text searching, but as well context-sensitive searching based on tags. One of the nice things, has anybody here used Office 2000? One of the nice things, Microsoft in previous editions, their save as HTML in many of their products hadn't been very robust, you could say. Some people might call it not working. However, here with Office 2000, they've greatly enhanced it. And in fact, not only can they store as HTML, but furthermore, they store metadata using XML data islands. And so I'm going to show you my demo actually searching on content authoring names from right within the content base. Okay, so we've updated that president's message directly in the content base. Now let's go out to the website again. Here I am back on the home page. And let's look at that president's message. So immediately, without doing anything, I've just switched back to my browser. I'm back in the user mode. I requested that page, and it has been immediately updated. That is the dynamic capability and how quickly you can begin publishing using a content-based management system such as LivePage. Not only do you get the content immediately online, but as I pointed out earlier, you've got full searching capabilities. So let's look here and find content searching, and we happen to know that the president's name is Jerry, so I say submit, and I'm searching the entire document. LivePage has gone out and found that there is one match found, and it's in the letter from the president, ranked number 1. We support Boolean searching as well as ranked relevance searching. All of this is provided transparently and free of charge to authors. In terms of context-sensitive searching, for example, using the capabilities, Microsoft's new saving in XML islands, I can find occurrences of Farrar, and that happens to be my last name, where I was the last author. And again, there's the letter of the president. So we're actually using the tags within the data to provide that searching. A few notes here is you'll notice when I created that page from the letter of the president, you know, all I created was the actual text. And the content server applied the look and feel of the site. So bright ID up in the left-hand corner with the logo, the home, the sitemap, the searching, as well as the navigation down the side. One of the things I also did, you might have noticed when I saved the page, I typed in a comment. And I think I said 1999 President's Message. We actually have a little business rule on this site that says, hey, when there's a message, when a new page gets inserted, let the user know by displaying its note in the News for You column. So here we are creating flags to our end users that, hey, there's new important information on the site for you. And your authors didn't need to program anything to update this home page. That was dynamically done, again, from the database. A couple other capabilities, a number of other capabilities with LivePages. You not only, the information that's stored using the content relational model can actually be extended using the underlying framework of the relational database. There's a lot of information out within organizations today already in relational databases that you might want to access. Financial information or simple information such as you know, the phone directory. And so here I've actually got an employee locator on my intranet where I can look up a name such as Newman, and I can say submit. And sure enough, I can see that Wes Newman is the associate director here. And so here I've gone out beyond what is stored by authors in the LivePage portion of the database. I've gone out to our operational data. Let's just take a moment here and look at some of the personalization that's going on or that's available. As I'd mentioned, you know, depending on what browsers folks are using, you may want to return a different look and feel with the same content. Or depending on the type of user, you may actually want to return different content to that user. On an intranet, how that's often used is you find within an organization there's different levels of privileges. Presidents might have full access to financial data. The HR administrator, for example, in this case, actually gets more information, more employee information than Joe Average, such as me, Deanne Farrar. If I look at the job codes and pay scales page, I see here it returns a table to me. So all employees happen to get to see what people in the tech category make by the hour and by month and biannually. Now, if I log in down here as a privileged administrator, and again, here I am logging into the database, and HR admin, and the password is blank. So here I log in as a special administrator. Immediately this page will be updated. So as soon as I'm recognized as an author with privileges, it goes back out to that same content base and says, hey, I'm now a new user with special privileges, and show me the information that relates that HR administrators can see. How this page was actually developed is that there is an XML tag in the data that says HR administrators or privileged administrators get to see this data. As it is served up from the LivePage content base, the content server applies an XSL style to it and then serves it, which not only changes the XML data, the XML content to HTML, but it also applies the business rule for the HR administrator, providing us with more content. Are there any questions on the demo at all, or what I've shown here? Okay. In terms of, so that's LivePage. So just in terms of what we saw there, so the manager is the one piece we saw, and serving up data right from the database. As I'd mentioned, the LivePage server applied that look and feel, the home, the navigation on the site. And those style templates were created using a combination of HTML as well as XSL. One of the things LivePage incorporates so that you can quickly get started, and to give you an idea of how quickly you can get started with LivePage, you can download a copy from the website and in less than 2 hours install the software and go through the demos. Furthermore, there is a style wizard that allows you to create custom styles for your particular corporation. And the style wizard says, okay, would you like your toolbar across the top? Would you like your navigation on the side? And allows you to quickly create a customized site using In terms of the foundation, a couple notes. We store everything using the content relational storage model. It consists of, I believe, 11 tables. As I'd mentioned, there's an index table. The full text is stored in the database, and that's what enables us to do the full text searching, along with the tags. Now, because we store in a database, and we get the data integrity and performance, one of the nice features of LivePage Enterprise, because of our support with Sybase SQL Anywhere, is the mobile option. Not only can we deploy on the internet and intranet, but furthermore, you can extend deployment to mobile machines as well as CD-ROM-based solutions. And so we find a number of corporations who want to extend beyond the corporate walls for their sales folks who are often offline. They want to get mobile solutions. And so not only what I showed you today, although it was a connected scenario, the disconnected scenario works well as well in terms of mobility. Another thing to note is not only do we store the full text in the database, but also all of the objects that are associated with it. So for example, in my page, I had some pictures. Those were stored in the content relational model, or using the content relational model in our objects table. So the full text, all of the associated objects, as well as programs. So if you have some Java or JavaScript, those are stored as well using blobs in the SQL database. As I'd mentioned, we can also deploy to mobile machines. Here are some of the features of LivePage. Drag and drop content management, as I showed you using the manager. Since we do chunk the data into in fact, user-definable chunks, you can actually repurpose and reuse content across a variety of different you can repurpose the content for a number of different scenarios. Multi-user collaborative content management, there's no limit to the number of collaborators you can have on a site, and we support full check-in and check-out with that. Seamless web publishing from the content base. So as soon as you store something in the content base, it can be immediately published. In real life, we often find people want to implement a staging server because in a practical situation, they want to add workflow and ensure legal approves things before it is made publicly available. But if you want, you can have it directly published. Transparent integration with authoring tools. Again, exploiting existing talents within an organization is incredibly important. This exploits your talents in terms of DBAs, as well as your authors can continue to use their existing tools. Both Word, WordPerfect have integration. And the web publishing style wizard to help you quickly get going with your own customized styles. The server itself delivers navigation, a table of contents, an index, and as I pointed out to you, the what's new capability, which is extremely customizable. So you can actually point new users without doing any programming what exactly is new on the website. There's automatic hyperlink generation. So if you have a particular term that you want to have linked within the content base to its definition, that is supported, as well as checking the links to ensure 100% link validity is also within LivePage. So you don't want to have any of those broken links. Site maps and advanced searching are also available. And finally, extensibility and interoperability. We've got the SQL database capabilities, simple direct publishing to DVD as well. We support all the standards, and this is interesting. Right now, XML is evolving at a very fast rate. We support XML as well as XSL. The latest draft was of XSL was just released in December, and for those of you who are tracking the standard, we can integrate using other XSL processors. So you can extend LivePage using the latest Microsoft XSL processor if you want to use the latest standards. We have native support for Oracle, Sybase, Microsoft, and Oracle, Sybase, Microsoft, and IBM DB2, as well as ODBC support for the rest. Finally, using server-side scripting, you can enhance your dynamic data delivery to include your operational tables, like I showed you with the phone list. In terms of mirroring and scalability, with LivePage you can use load balancing and replication to ensure accessibility at all times. One of the things LivePage does, by separating presentation style from content, you're suddenly freeing up the folks who are building your web team. You're allowing them to focus. So the folks developing the styles can focus on building the best styles available for your site. Your content authors focus on the content and what's contained in the content. And your website, your webmasters can now focus on ensuring the accessibility and availability of the website. They can focus on load balancing and replication to ensure as your website grows, it is always available. So the separation really defines tasks and allow people to use their expertise in the appropriate scenarios. Where we've seen LivePage, or where LivePage is being used to solve problems, we've seen incredible growth in terms of sites. People who are starting out with 0 pages, within 2 or 3 months have 5,000 pages online. Content authors who get bogged down in web publishing technicalities. We're finding folks today are either following one route, they're implementing a webmaster who's doing the conversion, or they're trying to retrain their content authors to actually become web publishers. And using a system such as LivePage, where presentation style and content are separated, where presentation style and content are separated, we're eliminating that. Publishing of large documents. You can publish a large document with thousands of pages instantaneously. I showed you one example with a 1-page letter. That can be as easily a 500-page document, and you would have that immediately published to the web. Not each page doesn't need to be classified. Business critical content, as well as CD and mobile machines. And finally, because of the dynamic nature and the live nature of the product, it's immediately published. So if you have documents that change frequently or business critical in terms of timeliness, those are automatically published. So just in summary, really what we want to do is lower the cost of deploying content on the web. That's That's the mission of LivePage. Easy content management for the enterprise. Make personalization easy, as well as extend deployment to multiple machines. Gartner Group, after hearing the LivePage, after learning about LivePage, positioned it as follows. There's a variety of tools out there. One such tool is Vignette. And often the way Gartner describes a marketplace is, in the marketplace triangle. And they said Vignette's up at the very top, at the very high end. For very high-end enterprises, they require months of learning and training to get going. The cheapest installation the analysts have seen is about $300,000 plus investments in terms of training for the authors and the website managers. Then at the low end of the pyramid, you have SiteServer, which is a flat file system geared towards really HTML content with very little personalization. In fact, very little personalization capabilities. And then right in the middle of the market, what Gartner described as the tenderloin of the market, is where you find LivePage. We've got an approachable solution that is based on standards, that is based on your existing skills, that allows you to have enterprise capabilities such as XML support, rich XML support, and as well as to exploit your existing relational database infrastructure and expertise. So that about covers what I have to present today. Is there any questions or? Hi.
A question about workflow. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that many people will want to have a staging server to have reviews or approvals or non-approvals. Does LivePage build in any type of workflow?
Two-part answer. The first part is by exploiting the database security, and we've further implemented document realms, which allows you the concept of document realms, which allows you to specify certain properties or certain view properties on documents. So you can say this group of authors, such as the legal team, when you store a document in that realm, it is only viewable by the legal team, and they have to move it from the legal realm to the publish realm for it to become live. And so we have enabled the idea of realms, or the strategy of document realms, which would allow you to enable workflow. It is one of the areas where we're going to see a lot of work in LivePage, because although the technology is there with realms, the underlying technology is there, the accessibility of it today is still some programming is required to exploit that. So we're going to open up the user interface in the future to better enable it, but it is doable today through our realm structure. Furthermore, with our database support, and what we've often seen folks do is they actually want to have a whole staging server and then a production server. And so what you find is they really take a snapshot of they say, okay, right now today our staging server's set, let's copy it over. And so that's almost a natural workflow that we've seen evolve in many corporations. And that's a very prevalent one we've seen as well.
What are the rules by which large documents are broken up into separate pages and linked together?
Okay. With that, we support the tag documents, HTML, XML, and SGML. It's user definable. And so you can say, I would like, if there's in your XML document a tag page, you can, at a user definable level, say, I would like to break the content into pages based on the tag page. So it is a user definable level of granularity, and that not only defines the representation within the database, but also how it is published back out to the browser. So for example, if we take a real document and say I want every chapter to be stored, you would base that on the chapter tag, and then when you serve it back out to the database, that whole chapter would appear as a single page. So it's on a tag level, and
only one tag, or?
Oh no, multiple tags. So I just used examples there, but it's at a tag level, and you could say, I'd like to break it into my chapters on a separate page, my sections on a separate page, and define it at that level. So it is multiple tags can be broken on multiple tags.
And then if you go back to editing the document, you can still get the document back as a whole, or you get back, so not on the server side, but on the
manager side?
manager side. If I say break this up into sections for the purpose of display, and I say now I want to edit my document again to update it for some reason, do I get the whole document back, or do I get back, are those also the update units?
Yeah, no, you can, from an update level, you can get so two ends. From the update level, from the authoring level, you can get back the whole document. And another neat feature that we actually just added in 2.0 from the user level, one of the problems we've seen with browsers, you know when you get up on a large document and if it's displayed in HTML, sometimes you got to hit page down, because the chunks are too small. One of the features we've added in LivePage 2.0 is the capability to add a button to say rebuild the tree structure from this point down. So if you are on a page and you want to see the entire tree structure below that, we can add a button to that website that you just click, and it will on the fly display that entire tree structure. So instead of having, it allows the user of your website to also control the granularity which with he views it. Yeah.
I had two, and the first one's really quick. Do you know how Eddie Bauer defines largest store?
I believe it's by revenue.
Oh, okay.
I believe it's by revenue.
Sounds like, and I was just curious if that's right. And then the other one was, you mentioned sort of mobile machines. Mm-hmm. I was curious if there's anything special that you can do for low bandwidth connections. So I'm on the road and maybe, get rid of all the GIFs, that kind of thing.
Well, here's one way you could implement that, using a cookie. So, for example, one of the things you can do, because LivePage dynamically treats content and presentation style differently, using a cookie you could say, okay, when you request a page, you'd send back the cookie and you say, I'm on a low bandwidth machine, and we would apply a style that would remove all the GIFs. It would maybe return, instead of a fancy toolbar, would return a text view that provides the same navigation capabilities. So yeah, using a cookie and the appropriate styles, you could do that for low bandwidth machines.
Now, how dependent is this existing stuff on cookies?
What I showed you today, not at all. Like,
cookies, this stuff, right?
no. Like, I'm just saying as one way of implementing it. LivePage is completely thin client, HTML only is returned. So all of the capabilities like search, those aren't ActiveX's or anything like that.
Does it integrate with active server pages?
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, we've got users who claim that they've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars because their situation was they had an Oracle, they had a financial system on a mainframe, and they were faced with either making that obsolete or putting heavy mainframe client accessibilities on each individual client. And what they did instead was they built an active server page that talks to the mainframe application and then returns the information back to LivePage. So we integrate perfectly with active server pages. And people are saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yep.
This content-based system that LivePage is based on, is it unique to LivePage, or are there other website authoring website tools that use that same? I know if you compare the front page is very cumbersome to update pages, and this obviously looks like a much quicker system.
Yeah.
Are there competitive products that are similar to LivePage?
Right.
Same strategy?
Yeah, what I would define, like there's a series of products like Front Page that you would call static page publishers. Like every page is an individual HTML page. There are other folks that are in the dynamic space. The differentiation is that we store everything in the relational database. So for example, we store the full text. Often what you find is people will store just a pointer to an outboard file. And so all of a sudden you can't use the database replication you have in place because you've got a database storing the structure of the document and then outboard files that you then have to deal with on a as-is or case-by-case basis. So that's one difference, is how our strong foundation within the relational database. Another implementation we've seen that also exploits relational databases is where they store the text in terms of blobs. And there you don't get the granularity capabilities, nor do you get some of the searching capabilities that are immediate. And so you lose, in both of those representations, although they access a relational database, they have limitations due to their storage mechanism. And that the storage mechanism, as I pointed out, is rooted here in research at the university.
So you don't store your data as blobs?
No.
You said you did.
Oh, no, sorry. That's how blobs are used to store external objects, GIFs, and if you have a Java program, that's stored in our object table as a blob.
For the other question, when you are editing some content with, say, page mail, and you want to update the data in the database, how does LivePage present that page or frame set that to something on page mail? Does it dump out some temp files into a temp directory that you can manipulate and push back in?
Oh, okay.
What's the actual connection?
I'm not familiar with page mill.
Well, let's say
Yeah.
Visual Page or Dreamweaver or your favorite.
Right, okay, so like if we say front page, or, well, front page is actually a bad one, but if you have an HTML file, right, what happens is we can first of all, if the tool supports Olay automation, we can automatically link to it. And then what we are exchanging with the content base is exchanging with the authoring tool is HTML. So we are actually natively storing the HTML, the tag, as well as the full text associated with that tag. And so it is native HTML we are storing, and as native HTML we would return to the editing tool.
So let's say a contents page, like a frame space page, what does it do to, how does it name the files that the editing tool accesses?
I'm going to defer Nick here. Nick Manson is actually our developer that developed the Olay automation interface with Word. Did you hear the question, Nick?
Yeah. You're basically limited by your editor. It depends what your editor can support in terms of integration. If your editor is strictly limited to a file-based model, it has to edit files off the disk, it has to save them to disk. We can deal with that. The manager can be set up to create a new page in the table of contents, and then publish that little small page to a temporary file and put it back and keep track as the edit occurs of the place in the document and other meta information about the file. So when we do the replace operation, it goes back in the right place, update the correct indices, and the table of contents. More advanced things like Word support Olay automation. They actually are able to run a scripting language within themselves. So they actually go to the manager, our main part with the table of contents that you saw, and perform commands and traverse the tree, put a page here, add these comments to the page, etc., etc. Now the other thing we're looking at, and this is coming, and standards are gelling or have gelled, is WebDAV, and that's a full middle tier solution, which would be parallel to a web server. So instead of just having a web server published outward, it could also receive files from verified sources coming inward, and we're working on changing our content server to respond to those and put it directly into the tree that way.
Okay.
Do you have a follow-on question, or are you still? Oh, okay, hi.
How much processing is done when a request comes through from a browser? There's all these pages, do they all get, all the processing get done and put into a file somewhere?
Yeah, we do support, okay, so first of all, processing that gets done depends on your individual scenario. So for example, if you've got HTML stored in the database and you're just serving it back up, really what's getting applied there is some rules that boil down to an HTML style template getting applied. And in that case, you're not doing very much processing. In more sophisticated examples where perhaps you're using an XSL style to add personalization, there is more processing done. So the amount of processing done is dependent on your particular application. We do have caching on the server that allows you to cache pages. And Nick, do you, the exact algorithm, there are...
We support, actually, it kind of answers another question earlier. Our publishing rules are organized so that they are modular. We can apply an XSL style sheet with one rule, apply another, say an external processing tool, such as James Clark's XT, another XSL processor, just to use an example, and another rule, and with the third rule, publish the table of contents on the side. At each step, we cache the results, dependent not only upon the page, but on the other pages within your site that are referenced, so creating links in the table of contents, and on input parameters such as cookies. So we've got a very sophisticated caching algorithm that prevents any duplicated work from occurring. The results really, really quick. We're really, in terms of performance, we're right up there with anyone else who publishes content dynamically.
One more question?
Back to the guy who asked the first question. Full circle.
Have you heard of Encompass resolution? How would you compare yourself?
Encompass resolution, they are very active server based, active server pages. And so to a certain degree, you could almost think of them as a great editor for active server pages is perhaps one representation. Now, fundamentally, in terms of content management, the use of XML and the use of XSL and the one thing, their storage methodology as well are all areas where we differentiate from them. I haven't seen their latest release. I believe they've done one recently, but the last one I looked at did not have a number of the things we provide transparently, like just without having to create a template. Like we have a wizard, right? But without having to create a template, we automatically generate that navigation, that level of support, that the automatic generation of navigation, the automatic searching, the context-sensitive searching, a lot of things that we are deriving by storing the content in a database and knowing the hierarchy and indexing it as we put it in are areas where we'd differentiate ourselves, because they come at it from a programmatic almost point of view where they have added some content smarts to what is not an interface not designed necessarily for content, where we've taken it from we've taken a content foundation and built up from there. So it's almost our approach, and so as a result we get a lot more content features, is how I would characterize them. Another great Canadian company though.
Thanks.
Well, I'd like to thank Deanne for giving an excellent presentation. We all join with peace in thanking her.
Thank you.
I do have something here. I wasn't too sure who was actually coming, so this is the University of Waterloo cap.
Hey, great.
Part of our team, and we thank you for coming back and visiting us.
Excellent. Do I get free coffee on campus now or anything?
For those of you that are from the University of Waterloo campus, it's my understanding that there is a site license for LivePage for the University of Waterloo. So yeah, I believe if you went to the computer, the chip, oh, there's Paul Snyder right there. I should let him say this, that you could probably arrange to obtain a copy of LivePage. And my last announcement is that our next seminar is February 24th, And it will be another Waterloo grad, David Keeler, who's now with Digital Renaissance. And so I look forward to seeing you next month. Thanks again.
Oh, I closed the server.
So I did get one for Dave.
Oh, great.
So you can
Oh,